Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast, The Wire Remixed, Season 2, Episode 3, Hot Shots. I am, as always, joined by one Robert Sapp. How you doing today, this evening, Mr. Sapp?
Doing well. Great to be here. Great to be talking about The Wire.
Yeah, we were just talking, before we started recording. This was a very layered episode. A lot was going on in this episode. This episode was directed by Elodie King. To no surprise, it was ranked 56 out of 60 in terms of all-time Wired episodes by Vulture. That's been a recurring theme these first couple of episodes in season 2, that they've been lower at the bottom half of the rankings. You had the epigraph, "What They Need Is a Union" by B.D. Russell. And you had, of course, Omar's return, as well as Omar's return. A lot going on in this episode with characters. If I had a theme of this episode, it would be multiple themes. I would go like anger, desperation, and legacy in regards to Avon, Valchek, Nikki, Ziggy, and Avon. Those are the characters that made major moves in this episode. We begin with the opening scene. You have Omar, his new boo, Dante, Kima, and Tasha, who are also a stick-up crew in their own right. They rob Omar's score, the score that Omar was scoping, that it was going to be the score. and then you have Omar saying, classic Omar, that's something you don't see every day. What were your thoughts on this opening?
This will be the trend from now on in terms of when Omar appears in the season. And it is a just an announcement that Omar is here. So it's setting the table for future, like the future seasons of like when Omar comes in. Some things are about to go down, and I think like this is a great starting point for that.
So you have Freeman and Bunk. They're down Philadelphia, still holding the port, holding down that ship at the Philadelphia port, still looking for leads in their case, and they're going through it. They're interviewing a bunch of people that were on that ship, who is a combination of not speaking English and not wanting to speak English. It's basically these guys are not going to say anything to the cops. Not going to say anything to them. So most of them pretend like they can't speak English. Bunk and Freeman are just done. Like they are, it's one of the rare times you see Freeman snap on somebody. I rarely you see Freeman curse and snap on somebody. He's normally a cool customer, but even he's at the point where he's just has had enough, and the case is just begun. So I think the frustration of them realizing that this is an unsolvable case, and they're in Philadelphia, and they're just spinning their wheels. And one of the people on the ship basically said that, like, listen, these guys have a code. They're not going to talk. Like, they're not going to talk to cops. What happens at the bottom of that deck, on below deck, stays below deck. So at this point, Freeman and Bunk are just just look as good as quality, as great as they are as a team, or as individual cops. They really looked lost in this particular scene, and they were lost. What were your thoughts?
So why are they frustrated?
Well, the guys don't. They're trying to get some information, and
Now I know how the scene plays out. Why are they frustrated? I'll just go ahead. They're frustrated not because of what's happening. That's par for the course for police officers. I mean, they've worked drugs, So they know what I mean, a lot of people don't talk to the police. So anyways, point being, like that's part of the regular job. That's us as educators being like, a kid won't listen to what we say. Like that, that's just every day, all day. So lying to the police is not the thing that is the most frustrating. Should they be working this case?
No. That's what.
Should this case even be in their precinct right now?
No.
No. So, it'll be an extension. I'll have a lot more to elaborate in another scene coming up. But this is the beginning of. You're right. Personally, of course, they're frustrated. They're professionals, but I think there's a little bit more lying under that frustration of, why am I here? Why am I talking to all these people? Why am I investigating 13 dead girls, 13 dead Jane Does?
No question about it. They absolutely don't want to be there. They don't, let alone they don't want the case, and they don't want to be in Philadelphia. Like there's this, so it's like it's a perfect storm of shit that they don't want to deal with at this point, in terms of this case. You have Nikki and Amy. We get introduced to now. This was an episode that had moving parts. We also got introduced to a number of new characters. We already talked about Dante, Tasha, and Kima. We get introduced to Nick Sabaka's girlfriend, baby mama, Amy. He's getting a haircut. She's cutting his hair, stressing him about money and about getting a new place. And this is when Nick's wheels, to me, start spinning in terms of desperation.
Yeah.
You can see it in his face. You can see, like, again, she's talking about the embarrassment of, not having our own place. You're staying with your folks. And he feels that pressure. Without question, he feels it. 100%. What were your thoughts to her introduction?
Yeah, you used the perfect word, desperation. That's the perfect word. And if The Wire is anything else, is to show about money and what happens when you don't have it, and how do you go about giving it, right? I'll also have more. I'll tie this into another scene as well, but this is the genesis of it in terms of, like last season. Again, I'll keep beating this point over and over again. And the reason why I thoroughly enjoyed this season is because of the juxtaposition and what the creators were trying to say with this season, right? So we get to, in season 1, we get to the what's the projects that the Barksdale crew lives in? What's that called? Does they have a name?
Towers.
Towers, yeah, whatever. The towers, the pit, all that. But anyway, we get there, and it's already in motion. This is something, as they say in a scene, not as they say, but in the scene with D'Angelo that I love, where he's going through the history of his family, right, and like how they're in this cycle, in order to live the life of, quote unquote, the American dream. And so the juxtaposition now is, we look at these stevedores, right, and they're generally viewed as hardworking individuals who happen to be white. That's a big part of it. And lo and behold, they're not as clean as one would think they are. And then to zero in a little bit more, then we focus in on as the Greek would call him, Nico, and we see the evolution of his desperation and like where it started at, like literally, where it started at, and all of the kind of like the real life pressures that do. As of right now, he's very much against anything else, but life is pushing him to get money. And so what is he going to do? So this is the genesis of it.
No question about it. You have McNulty and Daniels in the evidence basement. You have McNulty getting some prep work in terms of the Gantt case. He's getting stuff together for that. He didn't know Daniels was down there. So this is the first meeting they have this season. And it was ironic in this scene when they're kind of going back and forth discussing, what transpired basically in season 1 and how how their predicaments. They also bring up Kima as well, and McNulty says she's not a house cat, Kima a house cat. That's not for her. So I thought that and of course Daniels tells him that he's putting in his papers 22 years. He has a law degree. They exchange pleasantries and McNulty leaves, but I think that a couple things. One, I wonder if McNulty had in that moment had any regret in terms of how he did the Barksdale case. And two, again, you had the discussion with 3 characters who paid the cost for last season in terms of Kima, McNulty, and of course Daniels. Three critical characters that paid heavy costs with actions with the Barksdale case and what transpired last season. So I found that ironic in terms of this discussion with those two.
Yeah, that's a great word again. Ironic. I really, really like this scene, like a lot. Way more than I had ever remembered liking it before. And I think it's because of all the conversation that we're having that I was able to really look at the performance that both Lance Reddick, right? Yeah, Lance Reddick and what's McNulty? What's the actor's name?
Dominic West.
Yes, Dominic West. The performance that they were given, and it kind of dawned on me, zooming out just a little bit. No, nothing coming up, but just when I think about all of the conversations that these two have had, that was the most, and definitely up until this point in the series. As we watch other seasons, I might reevaluate this, but I don't remember offhand. But this was the most civil and self-aware conversation both of them
by far
had with each other. Yes. And so I found that really, really, really compelling this time around. Seeing as the route that we've been taking on McNulty in general. So I really, really enjoyed this scene for that. And it's ironic. It is a what's the word I'm looking for? It is a predictor of things to come. Why am I blanking on the word?
It's foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing. Thank you very much. It's foreshadowing. It's hilarious. Watching it and them being like goodbye, we're never gonna see each other again. Nah, homies, nah, not by a long shot. But the way that they played it was very, very sincere. The characters in that moment believed that. And
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. Of course, even without knowing the history of the show, you obviously know the show's not ending in season 3. I mean, in the 3rd season of season 2. So it's a difficult thing to pull off. And they did a fantastic job. I really, really enjoyed this scene.
No, it was a great scene. You could feel David Simon speaking to you as a viewer, saying that and I will use an epigraph from a future season from a future season. Deserve has nothing to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not about who deserves what. It's not about doing the right thing. People in this show who are corrupt end up at the top. People in the show who do the right thing may end up at the bottom. So that he was definitely speaking. Simon and Burns are definitely speaking to you in this scene. You could feel like, you know, we know that obviously there are creators and writers, but that this was a this was like, yeah, this was Simon saying, "Yup, this is what it is. This is this is the game." In regards, in terms of on the police side,
and just to add on top of that, as you were talking, it made me think consequences, right?
Yes.
And in the education world, you know, consequences doesn't necessarily mean punishment. It just
Right.
means the thing that happened after the act, right? Like what happened after it. I had a full bottle and I pushed it off the table. The consequences that it falls on the floor and water goes all over the place, right? Not bad, not good, just it's the consequence. And
Yeah.
so it's up to the viewer. Again, this is a trope of The Wire that they just do at a master level. It's the viewer who gets to kind of like fill in the blanks on that. Like, was this a bad consequence? Was it worth it? Wasn't it worth it? Everything like that. And Daniel says, you know, what the hell? We brought in the case, right? Like, I could have been screwed over for a billion different things, but at least we brought in the case. And so, you know, that's where he landed with it. We know McNulty's not fine, but it is what it is. With him, he's not going to show, you know, X amount in that matter of time. But it also got me thinking, like, you know, we're both fans of Breaking Bad, and Breaking Bad was a show that really focused in on the consequences of its characters. The Wire did it first, but they did it in a more grounded way, just very, very grounded, and didn't. Yeah, just did it in a grounded way. That's why I end that stuff.
Yeah, no question about it. You have Kima, Tasha, Dante, Omar. Kima and Tasha execute a flawless robbery. I mean, this was, I mean, you can see why Omar wanted to connect with them, because this was just like, they caught the dudes, you know, dead to rights. Tasha, well, no, not Tasha. Tasha was the one that was driving. Kima said, "Yup, got caught slipping," and basically taunted the dudes as Tasha's driving away. And by the way, Kima did not even get in the car. She stood with a gun pointed, not even trusting of the fact that, waiting for these dudes to just in case the dudes try to run up on her or you know, do something. She didn't even get in the car all the way as the car's pulling off. And then they're in their glory. They find some empty row house where they're at. They count the money. They're cracking jokes, and then Dante comes in. And to announce, and this is classic Omar. It was hilarious. Omar's in the room behind Dante. They can't see him. They can't see Omar. Dante comes in and announces Omar as they're saying that, as they're counting the money, cracking jokes. And then they're like, no, he's dead. They shot him up. I heard them project cats lit him up, and so on and so on. And Dante says Omar. Omar's back. He says Omar comes calling. Then Omar comes in, makes an entrance, then pulls out the shotgun and basically says he's back. And then Dante takes their money. What were your thoughts on this connection?
Yeah, so a couple things occurred to me as I was watching this episode, and this is just more like the ins and outs of the episode, no deeper meanings here. But as we know from the beginning scene, like he respects the hustle, right? Like, so that's A. And then B, the plan that he had no longer could happen because they did it first. So
Right.
he needed a new way to go and get at them, right? And so it's a double play on Omar's behalf, right? Like, A, he goes in there and gets the money. And he can also add a different way in which to go and get Homeboy's money as well. So it is a potential win. It's always it's all a win-win for him. If the girls pop off and not, then whatever, then at least I got the original score, but then I can pad on to that if I can bring them in on the next score. So like I said, anytime Omar's on the screen, he's doing some he's putting in work.
Yeah, no, he was clearly thinking way ahead in terms of.
And also, this is very much setting up what's going to happen in a later season.
Yes, absolutely.
So as always, The Wire is not only playing for now, but playing for the future as well.
No question. So Omar has a new crew. We'll certainly get back to them later on in this episode. You have Freeman, Bunk, and Russell. They return back to the headquarters in Baltimore, and they basically tell Landsman tell Landsman about the case. To basically say they have nothing, hit a bunch of dead ends. Landsman, is eating a sandwich and basically saying, Rawls is watching us on this, so he gives him that edict. He also talks about Russell's clothes and basically said, we wear plain clothes here, plain clothes in homicide. She still has her port uniform on. Cracks a joke about Bunk's and Freeman's clothes and how they dress. But again, they are on point for these 13 murders, and they, you have those two, and then you have basically an outsider in Russell. So Landsman doesn't help when they get back to Baltimore and discuss this case. He doesn't add anything to it. Basically, just gives him a warning about Rawls is watching.
Yeah, and that's actually the subtext of this scene, right? Like, so it's like Landsman's being Landsman as he's presenting himself in all of these episodes, but also Landsman, like I was thinking about a comment you made last week when you were talking about Cole and the type of detective that he was. And then I was thinking about Landsman this week, and I was just like, well, obviously Landsman had to be a really good detective, right? To get into the position that he is, but he presents himself as a buffoon. Like, why would the writers do that? Like let's zoom out now. Not talk about, like, why would the writers do that, right? And so so when I connect it with this scene, it is Landsman's delivering Rawls's message.
Yes.
He's delivering the message. And the message is, and they'll say it much later on in the season, but the message is, the message is, your boy screwed me. You get no favors in this investigation. It's an impossible investigation. Yup. Yeah. Make it happen. Yep. Make it happen. And tell your boy that as well. That's the whole subtext of all of this, is that the reason that Freeman and Bunk are on this case is not because they're great detectives. The reason that Freeman and Bunk are on this case is because Rawls and McNulty are in a pissing contest right now.
Yeah. It goes back to what you discussed last week about the petty. This is the petty.
Yes. That was definitely the theme of last week's episode. That's definitely the theme. Yeah. And so Landsman's the sergeant. He's middle management. And so he's the voice. He's the voice for Rawls to them.
Yeah, no question about it. You have Valchek realizing that the surveillance van has been stolen. And then you have the dock workers taking a picture with the van. In terms of, as we continue the theme I'll talk about the theme of petty. So not only, again, this van was a surveillance van, $120,000. Valchek is besides himself, as he should be. And then the dock workers, again, add some salt to the wound by taking a picture with the van.
Yeah.
It's so petty. It's so petty. Like they just not care about Valchek and what what the consequences would be of this.
Well, remember these dock workers. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, these dock workers are not related to Baltimore at all. They don't know Valchek. They don't know anything about any of this. They just know a band is coming. They just know this is funny, and this is something that they're supposed to do. If last week's, for me, if last week's episode was petty, then this week's episode is about consequences. And so this scene actually has significance. Again, you know, I harp on this a lot. Anything that looks funny, there's probably a deeper meaning. It's very rare that they just write for comedy. And so it's played for laughs, but this is a really pivotal scene, a big turning point. Valchek was going about his business.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of humps. They weren't doing ish to Sabaka. This reignited Valchek.
Yes, absolutely.
So continuing to poke that bear, this is the from being petty, the petty that Sabaka was doing now starts coming to consequences, the for real consequences.
Yeah, this
about to get a for real detail on his ass.
Yeah, thinking about what you just said, this leads to a number of things that end up happening. Like this is like, and we'll go through them over this episode and even with next episode. But this really was a turning point, to say the least, in terms of what's about to go down. So, segue in that. This is a perfect segue. You have Prez and the detail, and the detail, of course, they're a bunch of humps. They're doing nothing, watching TV, chilling, just and even, you know, Prez is like, you know, basically saying with, you know, his facial expression, basically like, what the fuck? Like, what's, you know, this is not gonna cut it. So he observes this, and then, you know, this is this was a setup to what happens later on in the episode. So we knew they were humps from last week, and they're, you know, proving that to a T in this particular episode. You have Tasha, Kima, Omar, and Dante. They're back at the they're casing the stash house. I thought this is of course a setup for what's going to happen. Again, Omar being Omar in terms of just, you know, patience. Just seeing this has a whole grasp of the entire picture, not rushing and jumping into anything just because he's got two new members. Just seeing knowing what the next move is going to be, seeing how he can attack. And we'll see what happens later on in this episode, of course. Speaking of casing, Shamrock Stringer, Shamrock Country are in the car.
Wait, really quickly, can I just go back to that scene just real quick?
Which one?
It definitely doesn't apply to most of the season with Omar, I believe. But it is important for us to think about, all right, how much careful and how much planning he puts in to all of these different things, because you're 100% right? And then think about future things that Omar does. So I just wanted to put a stamp on careful, logical, planning, you know, thorough, all of those things right on top. There'll be more to come on talking about Omar and that. But I just wanted to stamp that right there, because you're absolutely right now.
He's, you know, at this he's you know, again, laser focused in terms of how he's going to go about this. Speaking of casing, you have Stringer, Shamrock, and Country who are in the van. They're watching Tillman's house. As you remember from the last episode, Tillman was the officer who was giving Avon and Weebay trouble, and Avon sent Stringer on him. And so they're trying to figure out how to go about attacking him. And during that exchange, well, not exchange, but during that this scene, you have Stringer talking about market saturation in terms of the cell phones, in terms of the cell phone business. You tell the story about Pooh and the fact that, if this dude could have multiple cell phones, then the market must be, then he's down on the market altogether. Very important end of the scene. Because you watch the scene, you'll see the scene and you'll say, okay, the primary focus is Tillman. And moving forward, we will see what happens with Tillman. But to me, the most important part of the scene was Stringer's business conversation. What are your thoughts?
Why do you say that? I'm interested in why you say that.
Because I think it just is adding to who he is growing, is becoming, and it's adding to who he's becoming in regards to the organization and the direction of the organization.
Okay, perfect. Because I 100% agree with you that this scene is about the conversation that Stringer has with his guys. I might have a slightly different angle. I don't know. But I've been waiting for this scene to finally lay this case out. So what I've noticed about Stringer this time around, watching The Wire, that I just wasn't paying attention to, didn't notice, was his insecurity. This is the scene. And so 24-year-old me or 23-year-old, whatever, 25-year-old me, whatever, this was 04, 05, I can't remember, looked at it and was like, oh, Stringer, the character, is trying to become more mogul-like, right? Like he's trying to transform the drug game into a business, right? Like that is the simple kind of like way that I looked at it younger. Now, 40-year-old me has a little bit of a different view on it because I can recognize all these signs now. Stringer was going to community college and doing all these different types of things to feed his own ego, to feed his own idea of self-importance, right? And I likened it like, so in this scene, like Stringer's like on the phone talking, they're joking around, listen to Stringer try to play Wall Street or whatever, and then it goes, yo, Stringer, why you are down on the phones? And so he talks about Poot, and then he kind of loves him. This is Idris Elba. This is why he's a beast. He kind of like looks down and then looks back up, and he goes, that's called market. He tells a story about Poot, and then he goes, that's market saturation. Then he looks up to see if they know what he's talking about. And I liken it. No, of course they can't have any clue. Like nobody's no, and it's not about intelligence here. It's just that's not what anybody else's focus is anywhere in the game other than Stringer. Nobody's it's not rare. It's not. It doesn't happen where big time drug dealer goes, you know what? I want to go to community college. So at least to my knowledge. And definitely not depicted on TV that way. So we go back to the thing of insecurity, right? Like, and I liken it in our profession, right? Like the kid who comes in doesn't necessarily have all the shoes, clothes, whatever the latest thing is, and talks about something that he knows nobody else knows. It might not even be true, but just to try to make himself bigger than them, feel important in some type of way, right? And so why it's insecurity is, to your point, why it's big time insecurity, to your point, Stringer's number 2. And at this point, he's essentially number 1 out there. So why are you trying to impress the people that you already hold huge amounts of stature over? Like, what is that about? And so anyway, so I say this to say, I noticed it all throughout season 1, and it will be a running theme up until it's not. But that's the shift for me. Stringer not as having an entrepreneur spirit and wanting to like do X, Y, and Z, but going deeper at the character. That's there. I get that. That's there. That's okay. Like they're not putting things out there that 24-year-old me didn't see. I'm saying that now that I'm older, I see a lot more of the layers that they were building in onto the character. And that was a significant layer that I never recognized before we did this rewatch. And that's all I can see now.
Yeah, I mean, it you know, yes, it's amazing what you can see in the rewatch because
And what years and experience will give you.
yeah, no, because I completely agree.
25-year-old me just couldn't have seen that. I just wouldn't have been able to see it.
So
I didn't have enough life experience to recognize that.
you say he's number one, right? At this point, and technically he is number one, but
on the streets, yeah, out there on the streets, yeah.
But think about it. He's doing an assignment for Avon. So even though Avon's in jail, the effect, the Avon power, the Avon, that shadow still is over Stringer. That shadow still that weight, the weight of who Avon Barksdale is still over Stringer. He's doing an assignment for him, and the fact that he, I think the writers, I think they did this purposely. You talked about Stringer being insecure. Avon is the polar opposite. Avon is completely comfortable in who he is and knowing who he is and what he's about. So it makes, from that standpoint, it makes perfect sense of in terms of what you said.
I would say, I think this is a perfect time to get into the Stringer conversation. So I would say I agree with that in terms of what the writers have shown us of Avon. I think there's more to get into with Avon, but I do think the writers and the creators had the depth they had more insight on the depth of the character of a Stringer Bell. And honestly, like, to just be real, I think Idris Elba, as has shown, he's just Idris Elba. He was better. He's just better. And so I think we got a lot more time to get at the different layers with Stringer's character. And so I think three things are going on here, right? One is the very top layer, easy to touch part of what the writers and the creators, and I'm sure what Idris was adding into the character, which was Black men who are in drugs are viewed one way. We want to show a different way, right? That's the top layer. That's right there. And they're doing that. Boom. They're showing that. The second layer, and we started to dig into that, is that Stringer is actually making moves for the top spot. The reason he wants to shift and adjust the game, I'm putting up quotation marks that nobody can see. The reason that he wants to shift the game is because he wants to turn the game into what he wants, so he can be the main player in it, not Avon. And then the third layer, again, is what and this is what I'm saying about being older and being able to see all this. What drives us is not what we do and what we accomplish. That's the end result. What drives us is that voice and those things when we lay down at night, right? Like that inner voice, our insecurities, our pride, our petty, our whatever, all of that, everything else there. And so that's that third final layer. So what they're showing us is why Stringer makes the moves he makes, and giving us a little bit of an insight, especially since they're never going to do a prequel. So giving us this is all we're ever going to have to kind of grasp onto of what are the motivations of why these characters did what they did. The Wire is a very complex and intellectual show. Everybody said this. We were saying it at the time. It's like a visual novel. And so in that area, it is very rarely the thing that you can tangibly touch that motivates a character. It's usually that voice on the inside. And so this is a way of showing us very tactfully that inner voice that Stringer has. And if they I don't know what I don't think they ever wanted to, but if they would have had time to build into what happened before, they could have shown us more. So I think, so they're giving us that for Stringer. I think the Stringer character just became richer for them to continue showing that. I don't believe the Avon character ever reached that level of richness because they just didn't have enough, they just didn't have enough time. That's my assumption on that one.
Yeah. So we go to Butchie, Tillman, Country, and Shamrock. We get introduced to another new character, Butchie. He will play a vital role in this series moving forward, and you'll get to know. There'll be plenty on Mr. Butchie over the course of this series. He has his own bar. Country and Shamrock see that Tillman is getting his drugs from Butchie, which will lead to some things further on that happen in this episode. What were your thoughts to Butchie's kind of introduction to the series?
I'm going to connect this with another scene.
Okay. We see McNulty and his wife Elena. McNulty's been was with the kids. He's dropping the kids off late, by the way, on a school night. Typical McNulty, and she hands him some separation papers, which I don't think he expected whatsoever. So again, adding on to the McNulty despair of season 2. On a boat, all these girls have died. He's going back and forth with Rawls. He is in danger of losing his marriage.
Yeah. No, I can't. I'm not gonna let that sit. Like you said, despair. I give you props on 2 other words. I'm not giving you that. No, this ain't the McNulty despair tour. This is consequences. This is what you sow. This is absolutely what this is. You reap what you sow. Yeah. Daniels, at the very least, was brought into something he didn't necessarily know what he was getting into. McNulty drove that truck and pissed everybody off. So, consequences, homie. Obvious consequence on that. You cheated, you messed around, you're a horrible father and husband, consequences. That's what you get, separation papers. It's not that McNulty's surprised. What I know they are doing with the McNulty character are 2 things. One is showing you what self-destructive behavior looks like in another way. McNulty's always the pitch person for self-destructive behavior on this show. And then the second part of it is that McNulty is a selfish son of a bitch. That's why he didn't expect it. In his mind, he and his wife are getting back together. Doesn't matter what he's done to her.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter what he does to anybody. It's all about McNulty. And that's the hallmark of self-destructive behavior. When you only think about yourself over everybody else, you are destined for not failure, but you're destined to get the feedback that comes with that over a period of time. And so what we are seeing is not the McNulty that got Elena and wooed her and got married. We're seeing the McNulty who's reaping what he sows from all the stuff that he's done.
No question about it. You have Nick and Ziggy at the port. Again, continuing on that theme of desperation, you have Nick just, is beside himself as far as getting a lack of hours, lack of work. Basically tells Ziggy, look, I got a kid. I got a kid and without a pot to piss in. Ziggy, of course, carefree Ziggy. Ziggy gives him a proposal as far as to sell drugs. You remember Ziggy with the packages with White Mike in the past episode, and Nick completely refuses. He's desperate, but at this point he doesn't want to go down that road. What were your thoughts on this scene?
I love this scene, and there's so much to dig into in this scene. I watched this. There are a couple scenes in this episode that I watched over and over again, and this is one of them. A, just well acted by both actors.
Yes.
And then B, I debated if I wanted to attack this line in my head, but I think it's such a significant line.
Yeah, about
When
the,
he goes, yeah. I'll say it.
Right.
I'll do it because I have a point to directly talk about it. So when Ziggy says, "Oh, money! If you're worried about money, I could just go get a package of Yayo and we could just do that and everything like that." And he's like, Zig, I'm not gonna be some project nigga standing out on the corner getting busted for scraps, right? So the reason why I'm attacking that line right now is not like it means something. And it means something way more than just being disparaging to people. There's a reason why they put that line in there, and it's because that's Nico's stance right now, right? Like, I'm not gonna be like them standing out on the corner doing this. So that's his stance right now.
Right.
We'll see where desperation takes him, right? And then on top of desperation is then the justification you put in your mind to get yourself there. Like way later on, of course, Walter White has laid this out very well for all of us. In like, yeah, I can have a moral justification in my head, but everything that I do to get there is horrible, right? And that doesn't make the initial justification right. And so right here, what's going on to me is that the writers and the actors and the director are showing where that lack of money will take you and what it will put you in a position to do. And so that's why that line is significant, and that's why this scene is very significant. Yeah, I'm done.
You have Bunk and Russell drive down to a port. This is a quick scene. They briefly discuss the case. Again, I think this was set up for a future part of the episode. Then you have McNulty by himself contemplating his next move at night outside the boat or on the dock. So he's, again, it was a quick scene, but he's basically seemingly taking everything in that's transpired in regards to what happened with his wife. So that was again kind of set up for what's going to transpire. Now we have a key, real big scene. Stringer and Butchie meet for the first time. Stringer asks for the help of one Butchie, and basically uses Avon's name to get that help. Butchie was reluctant in the beginning, but as soon as Avon's, getting back to Avon, as soon as Avon's name was used, Butchie acquiesced. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, so what's going on in this scene for me is they're putting the plan in motion, right? In terms of what will lead into future events. But this is the beginning of the plan. So what they were doing initially was scoping out. Like, they know they want to go after Tillman, right? And they know they want to, but they're like, how do we get at him? Then, of course, they heard Tillman selling drugs. They of course are big in the drug game. So if he's not getting it from us, then who the other people could be getting it to? So they're staking out different places. They, of course, see that he's getting it from Butchie. And this is the conversation that ensues because of that. This is also where that insecurity plays its part in, because to your point is there's only a certain Stringer's name carries him so far. Now this is a joint plan, so I'm not even saying this is what's going on necessarily in this scene. Like this is something that's well thought out and well planned out by both of them. But it still does show that Avon Barksdale's name is what carries it over the goal line. Like, Stringer may be able to get everybody into the red zone, to use the sports parlance, but Avon's name is going to get them into the end zone, score those points. And so this scene did a very good job of showing that out as well.
No question about it. And again, we'll see a lot of Bushy in future episodes in terms of this series as well. McNulty and Doc Frazier. So McNulty goes to the ME, the guy who the ME who we saw in episode 1, and gets some more information about the girls. Great pickup by Doc Frazier to recognize that the girls had breast implants. Found out that they were, all from Budapest, and he gave McNulty a number of great information that kind of, I want to say, inspired McNulty. I think it inspired McNulty to further push along the case. And also, McNulty, for all the things that he is, he does respect great police work. So you had that going on with that particular scene. What were your thoughts on this exchange?
Nope. I'm going to roll this into another scene coming up.
Okay. So, and by the way, there's one reveal too that he finds out. Doc. He does find out that Bunk and Freeman are on the case.
Yeah.
That's also a key reveal from that standpoint with this scene. Tasha, Kima, Omar, and Dante. They use this little girl as a ploy, as basically a prop to get inside and rob the stash house. I was like, jeez.
I definitely paid attention to that.
Yeah, I was like, my goodness,
that's not okay. That's not okay.
That's not okay.
That's not okay. It just isn't. It just isn't.
So,
again, difference between 25-year-old me and 40-year-old me. I couldn't unsee that. I was like, I don't like that. I don't like that.
Nope. Did not like that at all.
Nope.
So
I cannot co-sign on this scene. That's not okay. You can't do that. You can't. I don't care whose drugs you want to get. You can't put that girl in harm's way like that.
Bribe the girl with a soda.
Then bribe her with the soda, walked her up, and then as everything's popping, carried her inside. I was like, yo, y'all are horrible. Y'all all horrible people. Horrible.
So they get So they get the get the money out the stash house. The guy inside goes for the bait of the little girl, and she serves her purpose.
Yeah, she does.
She was the MVP of that scene.
Yep.
Without question. So you have Tillman. He gets the bad drugs from Butchie. Again, we'll see what that leads to later on. We have McNulty, Russell, Freeman, and Bunk. McNulty, of course, feels somewhat, feels bad for them, or just wants to throw them a bone when he found out they were on the case. And they basically tell him, we already know everything that you were going to tell us. So I thought that was a scene that, again, to your point about the comedy and the subtext, what are your thoughts on that scene?
Okay, here we go. So this is why I wanted to roll the Doc Frazier scene into. But here's why I want to state. I watched this scene 4 times today. I love this scene. It like, if I'm just picking out like this, there's only one other scene I think I like more than this. Maybe I can't speak on it because it's coming up and we're trying to take episode by episode. But it's like the biggest of big scenes in Wire history. Like that's number 1.
Gotcha.
And I was trying to go between this and the fuck scene from season 1. We did that where they're fuck, and how they do everything. That's probably a better scene than this. I have to watch them back to back to just suss out how much, but it's in the top 3. This is top 3 scene. This is genius. It's genius. It's brilliant. What's the actor's name? I was just looking at him today.
Wendell Pierce.
Wendell Pierce, and what's Lester Freeman's actor's name?
Clark Peters.
Clark, yeah. Amazing job. Just amazing job. So let's take this back from the corner scene, right? So McNulty is there because McNulty believes he can support. Well, initially he's there because he's just trying to figure things out. He's wondering what's going on with this. Now that I do agree with is a asset that looks positive for McNulty. He's thinking about this case. He's wondering about the case. Even Doc Frazier says, you just did this to screw over your boss. Now you're all up in it. Why is that going on? And then he learns about that Freeman and them, Freeman and Bunk had gotten on there. Now, the reason why I love, I cannot state it enough, how much I love this scene, is because if in last season's episode, when Kima got shot, if that was kind of like the announcement that this was not McNulty's vehicle, this was a ensemble show, this was the thing to say, McNulty's not the smartest motherfucker in the room. He thinks he's the smartest motherfucker in the room, but he's not even close to it. And the way that they did it was brilliant. I watched this scene so many times. Bunk goes, he's gonna come in here with some Johnny come lately theory. And Freeman, another line Freeman had, you deductive motherfucker, you. I enjoyed the scene for the writing, for the execution, for everything like that. But also because they put McNulty in his place. And at the very end of it, he just literally Dominic played it everybody in the scene played this perfectly. Because at a certain point, he's sitting up, he's like, okay, now I'll know when I'll jump in. And then when they tell him they were in Philly, ship talk, and knew about the girls and everything, he just sinks back down in his chair like, damn, they know everything. Yeah, I don't got nothing for him. I can't help him out. So literally all he's left with is that he screwed his friends over. At the end of that, that's what that sinking down is. Like, no, you can't do anything to help us out. You did this. You need to sit in that. Don't come in here with some theories that you have because we're real police too. Get that out of here.
Right.
Get all that stuff out of here. And so again, that juxtaposes or adds layers into the McNulty character of just like how selfish and arrogant and self-serving that he is, and how he only thinks about it from his point of view. And even with Freeman and Bunk being forced into this horrible situation, they're handling it as professionals, as professionally as possible. Yeah, great.
And to add another adjective to add another thing to that, he's similar to Stringer in terms of on the insecurity. Very insecure. Yes. Very insecure.
Yeah. His insecurity is not as subtle as Stringer's.
No.
His insecurity leaps right off the page. Yep, yeah, absolutely.
Another big scene coming up. You have Frank Sabaka, the lobbyist named Bruce, Father Lewanski, Lewandowski, and all are at this meeting. And basically, you have Sabaka wanting to get some movement going in terms of some traction going for the granary, and he's being schooled by Bruce about who are the key players that he needs to make moves with in terms of talking to, communicating with, who's on their side, who's not on their side, who they need to pick up in terms of giving money. And again, he's getting schooled by Bruce in terms of, reading the room. And we see our buddy, Clay Davis, and we find out that they gave Clay Davis $40,000. And this not set Sabaka off, but Sabaka is like, we gave this guy $40,000? Like what? Like he is on borderline appalled at the fact that they gave him $40,000. So you have Bruce, the lobbyist, introduce Sabaka to Clay Davis. They have a brief discussion, and that, again, a lot going on in the scene in regards to the politics and the nitty gritty of what are going to be some things to come. What were your thoughts?
Yeah. So the thing that kept coming through my mind as I was watching this scene is Walter White Breaking Bad. I couldn't unsee it with Sabaka. And then another thing that popped into my head was a line that Avon would say the stringer in next season, but it applies right here. Not hard enough for this right here, not smart enough for that out there. So I'm gonna discount the hard enough part for on Sabaka's case, but not smart enough for that out there, right? Like Sabaka's playing a game he doesn't know how to play. And the point of everybody in that room was paid by them.
Right.
Everybody in that room was paid by them. So the point is, the point of it is that Frank doesn't understand why certain things are happening the way they are happening, right? Like he's initially talking to the guy that's already on his side, and that's why he breaks him out of the conversation. He's like, that's a waste of your time. We already got him. You need to go work the other side of the room. The people who would not be here if we did not pay them. Now, Clay Davis may have had the most money paid out to him, but everybody that he identified, another white man, another white woman, got a significant amount of money to be paid in that room, to get into that room. So it's not even about the dollar amount. It's about how this system works. The Wire's speaking on a bigger message on that, but when we zoom in on this scene, I look at Frank Sabaka, and that's what I see from him, and I see what's happening in his scene. It's just that the game that he's trying to play, he can't play. So it's another huge self-destructive act in his thing. He has this idea, this really good foundational idea. I want to save my union. I want people to have jobs. I want to give as many jobs to that. But every action he takes to make that possible is a horribly, horribly, horrible, horrible self-destructive and destructive action. And then on top of that, he is justifying. No. That goes into that. And on top of that, he is making. He is making the mistakes that will cost him his union. I'm done.
Yeah, it's again a lot going on in the scene, and certainly will. And again, another scene that was definitely going to have some setup to it moving forward. You have Bunk, Freeman, Russell speaking to the FBI about the girls, and they, this is where the epigraph from Russell comes in, where she says they needed a union. They needed a union. What they need is a union. That was the exact epigraph quote. And basically, I mean, you see what, you hear what these girls had to go through and what transpired in that, not in that camp, but on that ship. And it's kind of, there was, we brought this up a lot of times throughout the course of this, not only this season, but throughout the series up to this point, about dehumanization. And that was without question going on in regard. These girls are looked upon. I can't make a connection going back to season 1. How these girls are viewed are similar to how drug dealers and drug kingpins view fiends. They are just like cash cows. They are just objects. They're not, they're not viewed as human beings. What were your thoughts?
Surreal. I mean, you nailed it. I'm just gonna expand on your point. So, yeah. Not viewed as humans. Not valued as human beings. Essentially, they're the product, right? And so, like, again, the first thing I was gonna say before you broke that down so eloquently, the first thing I was going to say was, who in this show has a union?
Nobody. I know, yeah.
Well, right now in this season, who has a union?
The closest thing was Omar. Omar.
No. You think like we sometimes we don't have to even get that deep, right? The dock workers union. What's her character's name? Now I can only think of her real name.
About B.D. Russell's character?
Yeah, B.D. Russell. I can only think of Amy Ryan in my head. I was like, I know that's her real name. So the reason why I believe that's the epigraph and why she says it at that point in time is to highlight exactly what you said, right? Like who's protecting them? What is going on here, and how is this happening in the docks of the United States of America, and how is this okay, right? Like, when have we gotten to the police scene? No, that's coming up a little bit, right?
No, not sure.
Right, okay, all right. Anyways, so but we know, and we have seen that this is not an isolated incident, and so that's what she's in my opinion, referring to on one hand, and then the deeper part of that, for me, is docs, projects. They're equal. They're relating. They're relating those two very much together. Now, on one end, in Nico's word, the project niggas on the corner selling stuff demonized. On the docks, where Frank Sabaka came into the Greeks so mad at everything, was like, we do this, this, and this, and this, and could potentially do this. You don't want to know. So whatever. So they're running stuff in there all the time of things they don't even know. And then on top of that, they're stealing shit all the time. So docs, projects, what's the difference, right? What's the difference? There is no difference. There is no difference. These are both communities of people who the system does not work for them. Again, showing Sabaka being in that unfamiliar place right there. The system is not going to work for them. I would say The Office says the system crushes these people and these groups of people and don't give them any other choices, or give them very few other choices than to solicit out illegal activities if they want to pursue the quote-unquote American dream. And so that's the juxtaposition. It's not even, well, I guess it could be juxtaposition that you're getting right here, but that's the equation that is going on right here. And B.D. Russell's putting a name to it. You guys have a union, the dots, that protect you. These girls have nothing, and they're dead in a container.
Yeah, and to your point about the projects, the Fiends don't have a union either.
No, they do not.
They don't have a union as well.
No.
No. Key scene, President Valchek. So President Valchek is at a anniversary dinner for Valchek and his wife. Valchek is, in his glory, right? As is having a great time, smiling, and then he, they're sitting next to each other. He leans over and asks Prez about the case. And Prez, when I mean Prez tells everything. Prez tells everything to a point to where, again, this will change the complexion of this season. He tells them that, of course, the detail is horrible. They're not doing anything. They're not taking DNRs. They're not doing what they were doing, of course, when they were doing the Barksdale case. Then, and this is the key part, he lets Valchek know about the Barksdale case in terms of what Irvin Burrell did not do, and the fact that why the case got not shut down, but they could have went further in terms of the political money, in terms of tracing the political campaign money, which turns the wheels of Valchek, and we'll see what he does with that. So this is a very, very critical, important scene to not just only this episode, but the entire season.
Yes. All right. So I have to be
really, and I'll say this. I'll even go this further. Really, was important for the entire series. To be honest with you, in terms of the ramifications of what happened.
Yeah. So I have to be fair. I will forever sing The Wire's praises for all the myriad of great things that they do. If I do have one critique of this season that is different from last season, is there are a couple things that are clearly plot devices in this season. Tillman is a plot device. He serves no other purpose than to serve the purpose he serves. And so you can see that one coming from a mile away. This is another one that you can see coming.
Mm-hmm.
They need a reason to bring the gang back together. They need a reason to bring the gang back together. And so it wouldn't, when it happened initially, I didn't say anything, because if it just happened once, it would make sense to me, because this is a conversation, and the reason why I'm saying this is this is a conversation Prez has already had with Belichick that we've seen. And The Wire isn't a show that does things over and over again.
Right.
Right? Like they let the viewers be their own intelligent selves and put stuff together. So when they do that, it's jarring to me. And so when they do it, it also reeks of being a plot device. And so you're right. This is the mechanism that gets things moving, which is what needs to happen in the show, of course, absolutely. But the fact that they're doing it over and over again in the same way, just in different settings, says to me that they were either uncomfortable or unclear about how they would move this along more subtly. And so they're just like, fuck it, let's just say it and make it happen so we can get this along. Or specifically between Prez and Belichick, they needed something for these characters to do.
Yeah, I think both cases. I think because this really takes, we really get to see what that, like, Belichick go into his bag. Like, I think so. I agree with that completely in terms of, you know, the plot mechanism to move, you know, get the gang back together and all. But also, I thought this was like to really kind of expand on Belichick's character.
It was it was their anniversary, right?
Yeah.
What number anniversary was it? Who else did you see at that table that you could identify? Was Prez's wife there? Was Belichick's wife there? Were their grandkids there? Were their kids like? That's what I mean. Like, in terms of, like, they gave nothing else of that scene. Like, it was to give us more Belichick. Absolutely, I'm with you. Then give me more Belichick. Like, what, like some of his everything like that. And so again, this is the same conversation. They just moved it to a different setting, and all the people that were in that setting were just pictures on the wall, plants in the background. You know, they were just dressing for that conversation to happen again. And that's why I say, on one end, if I'm going to give the show credit for being smart and genius and everything, I got to call them out when they're not. And that's not something that a really smart show does, unless it's literally just to move this plot along. No, and that's fine, but I just, like, if I got to be fair, I can't not call out when I see, like, something that is a plot device. That would be fair to just be like, oh, this show's great. They never make a mistake. They never, not even a mistake. They never do anything that is just, you know, the nuts and bolts of moving a TV show along. So yeah. I mean, nothing wrong with the scene at all. Like, at all. As a matter of fact, I'm sure most people don't even remember that scene for the most part. But if I'm going to say I love this season so much, which I do, I got to also acknowledge why people would be down on this season. And that's probably one of the reasons, is because more so in this season than probably any other season outside of 5, there are just things that are just there to make the plot move along.
Yeah, no, this definitely was one of them. Donette and Stringer. So,
I hate this scene. Sorry. I hate this scene. And not because it's a bad scene. It's the great scene, which is why I hate it. It makes me hate it.
Yeah, it's a lot with this scene. So, of course, we remember Avon sent again, under Avon's orders, sent Stringer to go see Donette. She hadn't been visiting D'Angelo, hadn't been bringing his child as well. She tries to give Stringer his clothes, or D'Angelo's clothes. he kind of brushes that off aside and explains to her basically what her role is in terms of you know, what she has to do for D'Angelo as far as, or what she has to do for the family, for the family, for, you know, the organization, that, you know, if she doesn't visit D'Angelo, you know, start thinking that he can't do the time, and then he basically lays it out for her, and then we all got problems. She now, and I'll have a question for you after, you know, after I break this down.
Yep.
They, you know, they hook up, have sex. You know, I think with this scene, I mean, I know what his intentions were. I think he, you know, he wanted his deep inner his the key part of this scene is going back to back to Avon. He doesn't trust Avon's word about D'Angelo, so he needs another source to reach D'Angelo to see where D'Angelo's at. Remember, he's on the fence about, he's wondering about D'Angelo's loyalty. So yeah, on the surface, he's like, yeah, he's an attractive girl, hook up, blah blah blah. And I've heard a lot of dumb theories too about him, like people saying he was trying to get back at D'Angelo. Like, no, that D'Angelo and her had no relationship even before D'Angelo got locked up. So I don't think this was him sticking it to D'Angelo. I'm gonna sleep with your girl. Like, I don't believe that at all. I definitely think, I don't know if I don't know if, and I'll ask you this, I don't know if Stringer's intentions were before to sleep with her. I just think it was something that if it happened, if it was necessary for him to get what he wanted as far as her complying with him, then, you know, there are worse things you can do. But yeah, that to me was the key part, that he needed another way, because he doesn't trust Avon, he doesn't trust Brianna, doesn't trust them, either one of them, to be objective, and rightfully so. They're family. He needed somebody else to get wind of what was really good with D'Angelo, and where D'Angelo's mindset was. What were your thoughts?
So I just blew my mind right there. I love that theory. I think that's accurate. I had never thought about that. I think that's accurate. So I'll say originally, I hate the scene because, yes, Stringer's being grimy was in my head until you just spoke for no reason. Because it's like Avon's sitting there to talk. I'm like, why does he, like, he's sitting to talk, not to fuck her. He didn't have to. Why did he do that? He's just being grimy for no reason. But then you drop that bombshell in there for me to contemplate, and I'll probably think about that all night long. But then that ties it together. That ties it together for me. So to answer your question, even before you said the question, yes, I thought Stringer was being grimy as a motherfucker. That's what I thought. So yes, he did. No, he didn't have to sleep with her. He just did it to do it, to solidify that bond so that she gives him that constant communication. Because now that makes I'll be thinking about this for a long time. Now that makes sense to me when we connect it to another scene that's going to come up in episodes later about why he's now taking her call. Now I'm just talking to you because now I'm literally just thinking about stuff for the first time. So now that connects a lot of dots for me. I love that. I love that theory. Wow. Yeah, I love that theory. So yes, I do think he's being grimy. I love that. I hate that scene, but I love that scene because they did such a good job. Like, I'm like, this is disgusting. Y'all are the worst people in the world to me. I'm just like, that's really good act. That's good director, everything. Like, they got that emotion out of me. So I love that. And then on top of that, I 1000% co-sign on that theory right now, because that makes a hell of a lot of sense. Damn, that's good. I didn't think of that. That bothers me. I didn't think of that. That's very good. Very good. Very good. Yeah.
So yes,
wow.
we will see what that leads to.
Why these rewatches are so great, because you just keep coming up with different nuggets. And again, this is why this show is great, because decades later, you could just keep coming up with nuggets of things you could never even. I've watched that scene a bunch of. Let's watch this episode and go through the scene, and that scene always sticks out because I hate it. Because I'm like, that's just so grimy and for no reason. So to come out of this conversation with a completely different perspective. I love it.
No, it still was grimy, but
No. But why? Like it was a tactical griminess.
It was tactical, yes.
Before it was just grimy, or a tactical play. Before it was just grimy. I just thought he was just being a dirtbag, just doing it because he could. Right. But that makes all the sense in the world. That makes all the sense in the world. That connects so many dots. I'm going to watch the rest of the season and next season with a different viewpoint, and that's why I like doing this.
So you have McNulty, Beatty, Russell, and Bunk at the bar. Russell dips out early. She said, of course, she has 2 kids. We find out, not we, McNulty finds out that she has a kid. So you get that reveal from that standpoint. They pay her tab. She dips out, and then you have just McNulty and Bunk, as we've seen many times over the course, and we will continue to see over the course of this series at the bar, discussing the case. McNulty, basically the case has gotten to him, and he tells Bunk that he wants to pull the girl that he pulled from the harbor that you saw in the first episode. He wants to put a name to her, so that that's his crusade. And Bunk basically says, you get into that Catholic schoolboy type stuff with this, with that. So he kind of chides McNulty from that standpoint. But this was, again, a couple things about McNulty finding out that Russell had 2 kids, and him, getting further and further into the case as far as wanting to be involved.
Yeah. No.
You don't sound good.
Nah, you're projecting on that one. Now, the key line in that is that's that Catholic guilt stuff, and that's I'm not saying I'm just repeating. Right, that's not my personal opinion. I'm just repeating.
That's what the line.
And yeah. And so the reason why that's an important line is because what he's trying to say in that is that McNulty is doing these things because he feels guilty.
Right.
That's Bunk's assessment of him. We've gone a little bit deeper with McNulty and his self-destructive behaviors and things like that is all coming out. And it boils down to McNulty is doing this for McNulty. However it's playing itself out, he's doing this for McNulty. This is not about the case. Stop giving him that credit. This is not about the case. It's not about the case. Everything McNulty has done and will do is about McNulty. And so when he's talking about, I'm going to give this girl a name, and the way that we know it is, I'll just put it out there because, again, the way that we know this is D'Angelo, when he goes and investigates, and with this one, when he goes to investigate. Do those ever lead anywhere?
Right. Yeah.
Does he ever get to that point? And when does he lose interest? Right? Like, if this was actually a crusade, I'm going to put a name to this face. Oh, wait, we didn't get to that part yet. If this was actually a crusade of his, then some results will come out of this, or some passion will come out of this. It just falls by the wayside. So, no. I'm not giving McNulty that credit because I know the writers don't want to give him that credit. They've shown us over and over again who McNulty is and what he should, like, how we should view him. It's our past experiences, especially at the time with TV shows, that made us view these characters in very fixed places. What The Wire seeks to do, and what it has done, is transform the viewpoint of how a police department works, how characters work, how a TV show works, how like transform, shuffle that up, and completely like tear away what the traditional expectations were of it at the time. And so, yes, we want to root for McNulty because he's presented to us as a character to root for because he's the lead detective. And in every previous iterations of something like that, the lead detective always has a heart of gold hidden under all his stuff. There is no heart of, that's what they're saying. There is no heart of gold. There is no anything. What you see is what you get. And they'll break it down when they talk about, and we'll get there, when they talk about why McNulty wants to be on this case at the like further episodes. Right. They break that down. Bunk breaks it down really well. And when we get there, we talk about, but there is no heart goal. There is no heart goal. He does this because he does it. He does this. All right, before I ruin stuff, let me shut up.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, Valchek. So Valchek receives the picture of the van with the dock workers. Some setup, definitely without question. That'll be set up for later on.
Further, yeah.
Frank and Ringo. Ringo is a dock worker who comes in Frank's office, comes in complaining about a lack of hours, and he threatens to go to another union. Frank's like, take it easy. Go to Dolores's bar, have a shot in the beer on me. Then that's it. That's all he asked him to do. It doesn't further expand on that. He said, just I understand. Frank he basically says, I understand where you're coming from. Just go down to the bar, have a shot in the beer on me. Go to Dolores, who is, of course, we know is the bartender, the bar owner, for that matter. Set up, and also again, it's definitely a setup for a further scene. You want to add on anything?
No, it's set up. We'll get there.
Johnny 50, Ziggy. Ziggy gets some information on a can from Johnny 50. Nick and the can which Nick picks up, again, set up for further scene for a scene that's coming up.
Yeah.
Butchie and Tillman. You have Butchie. You have Tillman getting gets the bad drugs from Butchie, and we'll see. We certainly will see how that plays out as well.
Yep.
D'Angelo, Avon in the library. So before we even get into the scene, they had before they got heavy into the conversation with Avon. They had, and I know you are a Marvel maniac.
I am.
Ultimate Spider-Man, regular Spider-Man.
Do you want to know what the difference is, or which one I
prefer? Which one did you prefer?
Regular Spider-Man.
Right. Okay. Because that was the question that was posed to D'Angelo in the library before Avon came into the scene. So Avon comes into the library.
And by the way, the Ultimate Universe was completely canceled and redone and everything like that. So it's not even an argument.
Okay.
So,
Avon comes into the library, and basically lectures D'Angelo. Knows that he's been using drugs. He gets him explains to him how he basically comes out and says that he got him that easy job, that layup job in the library, and tells him, gives him basically the entire plan. Says, hey, lay off the drugs for the next couple of days. Something is about to go down. We can get some of our lives back. And it's the first time that you realize that Avon had an ulterior motive with the setup of Tillman, because he tells D'Angelo, I'm only going to do a year on this 7-year bid, which, by the way, Stringer did not know about. So keep that in mind. What are your thoughts?
This was another fantastic scene.
Well,
and there's a lot that got so. Wood Harris is a beast here, without question, and the writers are beasts here without question, because he tells them the plan without telling him the plan, right?
Yeah.
He tells them to lay off without laying off, right? And that's the genius of it. That's what makes a really good scene, and that's when that's why I have to call out stuff like the Valchek thing, because they did it brilliantly here, right? Brilliantly, you're 100% right. He lays out the plan. But D'Angelo doesn't know what the fuck is going on at all. At all. All the point that D'Angelo gets is that he's testing me, particularly with like, I've never seen you as a weak person. That's the weak man's way out. I've never seen you as a weak person. So D'Angelo just takes it as he's testing me as, you know, a person in here, everything like that. He doesn't see the far-reaching scope of the plan. So anyway, brilliant scene in that. Also, just an emotionally challenging scene as a viewer, and I would anticipate as an actor as well, right? Because this is your uncle, and he's trying, and it seems like he's trying to save your life, right? Or trying to save D'Angelo's life. But to your point, he made it really clear, this is going to get me 1 or 2 years off. Like, I'm only going to be here for 1 or 2 years. So what, like, is it a kill of two birds with one stone? Can you as a person can that be a good situation? I know how D'Angelo takes it. I know where he stands. Me as the viewer, I was trying to think, like, am I thankful that he did that? Am I thankful that he saved me from the thing he caused? Right? It's like, yo, don't go back to your house tonight because it's too late to drive. And then the house is on fire, and I could have died in the fire, but he's the one who set the fire for the insurance money. Like, I don't know. Like that's a more crass. This is more delicate, of course, because they're much better writers than I am. But I just said, I was just like, this is such a challenging scene to think about in in black and white terms of right or wrong. They're like, this is all gray. This is just a whole gray area scene. And so yeah, that just got where my mind was going. But the brilliance of it is exactly what you said. He lays the plan out, but in a different way. He essentially lays the entire plan out, but doesn't lay it out.
Yeah, a couple things. Brilliant acting, like to your point. This is grade A acting to a T with these two characters. Number one, so I watched the scene and I thought immediately about Frank and Nick Sabaka's relationship, because
that's a good one. That's a good parallel.
You think is like on the surface you say, well, it's supposed to be love, but the actions that the characters Avon and Sabaka are doing are clearly self-serving, because both of them are fighting for similar things. Number one, Avon, couple things. Avon, of course, wants to get out, but he also wants his towers. He's fighting for those towers to stay up and for his name and legacy. Frank is fighting for the Union. So they are willing to use family members, or willing to put family members in, not so much in harm's way, but are willing to ask family members to do things that uncles shouldn't ask their nephews to do. When we talk about love. Now, there's no question Avon loves D'Angelo, Frank loves Nikki. I think they both love them. I think they both love them, but what they're doing, those actions are not, to your point in earlier a couple of episodes ago, these are not loving actions. Like, not this scene right here. This is not. Avon is not doing this because he loves D'Angelo.
He's not.
He's doing this because he knows what's about to go down, and he doesn't want D'Angelo to die from that standpoint. So,
which is nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Uncle, for not wanting me to die. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Appreciate it. But I think that D'Angelo, I don't think D'Angelo. I think D'Angelo follows suit because he knows his uncle. He knows his uncle. He knows who his uncle is. He knows how.
Well, I'm going to pause you right there because no, I think Avon. I think the takeaway out of this is how manipulative Avon is, right? Because he could have just said, I mean, this is somebody's organization who took 20 years for them, like blah blah blah. He could have easily just said to him, "Yo, come here, holler at me. Let me just tell you what's going on, blah blah blah." but he doesn't do that because he knows D'Angelo's not with him like that, right? Like,
yeah, so he had to be endearing. He had to like soften him up. Yes, no question.
And challenge his manhood, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
We're both men. We have pride. We know what happens when our pride is challenged. It just automatically makes you want to prove that person wrong, right? Yeah. And like that was the depth of that conversation of what they were having. Like, yo, you look at Dusty, oh, you could, you only doing it. I'm just doing okay, so you can just let that shit go for a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Since it ain't no thing, you know, that's that weak shit. You're not weak.
Yeah,
I never saw you. No, I never saw you as weak as like that line. Oh my God! Like, yo, I think he would have got me with that. Anybody would have you would have got me with that line. Yeah. Like with pretty much anything. Like, yo, you eating chicken tonight? That's the weakness. I never saw you weak. I don't want to eat chicken. Not weak. Like it just gets you. It just hits you right here. And then especially if that's somebody that is older than you, and then older uncle than you, somebody coming at you like that, it's going to be challenging to resist that. And Avon knew that.
He knows. He knows the answer. This was a Walter White, Jesse Pinkman level mindfuck. Like, there's no question. This was on that level. Like this was like, yo, this scene was so layered with so many things going on. Because I mean, he gives him the big picture as far as getting out, but not again without the micro details. Like he does give him the big picture.
Yeah.
Of getting out, and then tells him, hey, I can shave I can shave 10 years off. You can shave 10 years off your 20, which would still piss me off if I'm D'Angelo. Like I still got 20 to year, so 10 to year 1. Okay, but that's still I'm sure that's still laying in on D'Angelo. The fact that he's going to be in there longer than Avon.
Well, I mean, like we'll pause really quickly. The overarching, like the conversation begins with Avon talking about kind of going in his roundabout way, right? About the job at the library. And D'Angelo's literally says, what you want me to say, thanks?
Right, yeah.
And it's like, I don't say thanks. So the reason why I'm bringing that back up is D'Angelo's done with Avon. He's been done with Avon. The only person who made him take the years was his mom. Gilded him in there. Mom came through and got to him. But he's done with Avon. Yeah. He does not want to fuck with Avon. Which Stringer sees a mile away. Avon can't see it. Right. In that, so all those dynamics come into play. But D'Angelo's done with Avon. Just flat out.
Yeah, Avon's the only one that can't see it, really, basically. So that's a great point. Double G.
I've challenged that, but we have time. We have to wait to deep into next season.
Yeah, we'll have time.
But I hear you. But we gotta wait to deep into next. Anyways, let's stop. Yeah, I was about to start talking about next season.
No, it's easy. It's easy to slip.
We're gonna get into there'll be plenty. Avon, Stringer Bell.
We get introduced to another character, another new character. Well, he wasn't. No, he was on the last episode as well. So no, he's not a new character. But we get more expansive. We get more intel on Double G. He has a store. You have Double G, Nikki, and Ziggy. So that can that was taken off the docks was some cameras that Ziggy and Nick took off the docks. It was how they did it was was beautiful in terms of how they maneuvered that. They take the can off the docks, the can of cameras off the docks. They make the deal with the Greek, not with the Greek, with Double G, who works under the Spiros and under the Greek. And I think the thing about this, for all the boneheaded shit that we've seen, the goof off shit that we've seen out of Ziggy, we realize that he's not a complete asshole because this was his plan. And he also negotiates a much better deal than what Nick was going to get initially. I think they ended up getting like $20,000 up front, and I forgot the exact number they were going to get total, but initially initially they were
280,000.
280. Okay, yeah, 280.
It was 280,000. Go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, 280. You're right. 280,000 and 20,000 up front. Ziggy negotiates a better deal because Ziggy lets Double G know, look, I've been doing my research on these cameras. They're going for $450, $500 a pop. So no, we're not taking that. That initial deal is no good. Double G gives in, and they make the deal. But of course, typical Ziggy asshole fashion, he takes a picture of both of them shaking hands, and Double G breaks the camera. Also, a key part of the scene, and something that we will see play out. Double G makes the deal because remember, keep in mind, folks, Double G is the one in power. He has the leverage. They need him. He doesn't need them. They're desperate for money, especially Nick Sabaka. But he says to Nick Sabaka, "I'll make the deal. I'll make it up to my people because I like you." Very key part of the scene. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I love the back and forth that was going on between Ziggy and Double G and then Nick. And so the way that it broke down was Double G says it's not 280,000, it's 200,000. So Double G says yada 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 about the cameras. This is what he wants to do 400 initially. Then Nick is like, yo, cool, okay. And then Zig's like, nah, 500. And he's like, because I went to Circuit City or looked around Circuit City, Best Buy, RIP Circuit City.
Good old Circuit City.
Yeah, I laughed at that. And I was like, I remember Circuit City. And he's like, 550 max value, 500 on sale. So he's like 500. Okay, cool. And so what would that be? And then Nick goes 200,000, and then Double G asks, so what are you looking for? And then Nico goes 20%. Oh no, he says 10%. And then Double G laughs and is like, I would like to go home. I would like a woman with thin ankles, but when I go home, there will be my wife.
That was a good line.
He's like 8%. Yeah, that was a great line. It was like 8%. And the 8% turns to, he's like, there's 3 of us because they need to cut horse in. And so he's like, that's 5,000 for each of you. Because the 8% turns to 16,000. And then Nick, I
don't think it's Horace. I think it's Johnny 50. I think
Johnny, whoever's the third person, it doesn't matter. But third person. So it's just a breakdown of money. So 5,000 each. And then Nick says 20,000 up front. And then Double G says I have to go back to my people to see that they agree. The reason why I took the time to break down that scene was because I love the interplay of all the characters in there. And no one was coming off as weak or stupid. Everybody had their part to play in this negotiation. And so they all equally need each other. That's what they need each other. Because later on, when we get to the thing, I'll say what Double G, when he's in there with Spiros and the Greek, he's talking to them about why this is such a good deal. Because they do have to okay it for him to make the deal. So he told them why it was such a good deal. So he needs what they're giving him. He's giving them they're giving them merchandise at a much cheaper rate. And then on top of that, I also love, like I said, Ziggy is a one-note character by definition throughout this season. He is the blazing bright sign of self-destructive behavior. If you guys couldn't tell it with what we're doing, like the writers and the creators, if you couldn't tell it with what we're doing more subtly with some of these other characters, here's what it looks like. But in order to make him human, he can't just fuck up all the time. None of us just fuck up all the time. And so I love this kind of like wink and nod to his humanity. Like Ziggy's thinking about things he just can't get out of his own way. That's the human element of self-destructive behavior. Nobody wants to run out in front of that bus just because it sounds like it'll be fun. there's things that are happening to you again deep down inside of your personality, the quiet spaces at night, yada yada yada, that drive you towards this behavior. And so I like that wink, that kind of like nod of like, nah, he's not a screw up all the time. He actually is human and does have good ideas. He just can't get out of his own way, and that's the tragedy of being self-destructive.
Yeah, no question. Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of make that analogy with, not analogy, but I think about sports. He's the guy who has some talent, but just couldn't stay out the bottle. Couldn't.
I mean, a great one would be one that probably more people know, Aaron Hernandez.
Yeah,
there's a documentary on it, Netflix.
I know you was gonna go that dark, but yeah.
I went there. I just to pull a name, like a bunch of other names came to my mind, but that one signed, sealed, and delivered. Yeah, like we know the whole story on that one. So it didn't make sense to put it in, because AB was the other one that immediately came to my mind. But there's all that stuff is still going on, so I didn't even but Aaron Hernandez, it would be the perfect example of that.
So we have Valchek and Valchek goes to visit the detail. He's what I mean, you talk about chilling. These dudes wasn't doing like they I mean it was
just playing poker.
It was just playing poker, watching TV. These motherfuckers was doing nothing. And of course this sets Valchek completely off. Next scene we go.
Wait, I want to pause just really quickly. There's not a lot. This is a scene. This is one of those instances where the scene is funny and there's not anything deeper to it. But I did want to point out, just because we keep pointing to the detectives that aren't doing shit, and they're not doing shit. But when Valchek goes, "Where's the sergeant?" My man goes, he's outside working a case. Like, yo, the sergeant's not even coming into work. What do you expect the detectives are going to do? Like, come on now. We throwing them all the way under the bus, and the sergeant didn't even come into work. Anyways, that's exactly. No depth there, just funny.
Sergeant, I forgot about that. He sure enough was gone. So that leads us, of course, to the Burrell-Valchek confrontation, or more about Valchek confronting Burrell. Burrell was on the receiving end of this one. So Burrell's at a function. He's inches away.
They're going to vote on his commissionership.
Yeah, he's about to be. He's about. To be,
it's not a function. He's about to be voted. Yeah,
he's about to become commissioner, and Valchek pulls out all the stops. He's like, "Look, you basically know what time it is. You gave me some humps. I need a real detail. I have political connects that can make it rough for you, a lot dirtier than you wanted to be, a lot closer than you wanted to be. In terms of becoming commissioner, you'll probably win, but you definitely don't want it to be as close as I can make it." And he goes all in on Burrell, and he asked Burrell about Daniels, of course, because that course was sparked by Presbeluski's talk of the Barksdale organization, or the Barksdale case. And he also mentions that too. He also tells Burrell, "Yeah, I know about how the Barksdale case wrapped up. So I have plenty of shit on you that I will use without question if you don't fix this detail." So Burrell concedes, but he tells him Daniels already put it in his papers, and Dad Valchek is basically like, "So did he go past the pension board yet?" Like Valchek is not trying to hear any excuses. He's like, you're gonna give me what I want. No questions asked. Like, I'm gonna get what I want. So we see the reach of one Stan Valchek as a major political figure, being who knows how to play the game. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, just to go. I mean, like everything you said, like outlining the scene. There's nothing deeper than everything that you just outlined. I wanted to jump on the point of the political game. I think this is what this is also showing us, is that kind of like what I was saying with Jay Lansfield. It doesn't matter your personality, right? Like how you're necessarily presenting yourself. If you get to X position in the department, it's because you know how to play the game.
Right. Yeah.
And you're astute at playing the game, which means doing a job well to be recognized, but also knowing what to do with all the different connections that are around you. We keep saying like political game, like this is some like non-reality to everyday life of everybody. Everything is politics all the time. Everything is. And so Valchek, everything like you said, accurate, and just essentially is just like, yo, I do this too. Do this too.
Yeah.
Like, and what? Don't mess with me. With like you can't play me like you play your subordinates. I'm not your subordinate.
Yeah. No. Let's
not get that twisted. I'm not your subordinate.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like what I was saying with Rawls in the other episode. It's easy to push around the people you have hiring and firing power over. These are your direct equals. You can't play the same games you play with everybody else with them.
Well, I mean, Valchek is like, Burrell is above Valchek, but Valchek has so many contacts and so much, and it's so savvy.
Well, the thing that they're showing us is that yes, of course, he's commissioner, but he's commissioner. Why is he commissioner? Why is Burrell commissioner? Right?
Yeah.
And especially at this point in time in the show, it's very tentative. And the commissionership, just like any other electable office, is dependent upon.
Yes.
So no, his power is not absolute with any stretch of the imagination.
No, I mean, look at it like this. Go to any sports league. The commissioners, the power is dependent on the owners. Look at Valchek.
Yes.
So that's the way I would describe it from that standpoint. Valchek laid his point out.
He did.
Yeah,
he did.
And by the way, the guy who played.
As a matter of fact, I'll quote him directly. Don't fuck with me on this, Burrell. That was his point.
Yeah.
Well taken.
The dude who plays Valchek is just he's real good. He's very. This is the only thing I ever saw him in is The Wire, but he's real good.
Yeah.
He's perfect
in this role.
Yeah, he's perfect in this role. Tillman, of course, Tillman's gotten the drugs from Butchie. He gives he gives the inmate the drugs to distribute, and of course we know that D'Angelo doesn't take the drugs.
No, because his uncle tested his manhood.
Yep. Spiro and Double G. So Double G runs this, of course, by Spiro, who's, of course, the second in charge behind the Greek, describing the camera deal. They confirmed the camera deal. And Spiro, says, make the deal. Basically without hesitation. Like it wasn't too much push and pull. Double G laid the numbers out there, laid the case out there, and Spiro was, and I think part of that too, because Spiro respects, of course, financial is number one, but he also respects Nikki Sabaka.
They very much disrespect Ziggy.
Oh no, they know you.
And so, but the only reason the only point I was going to mention in this scene was Spiro says they're giving me 10 cents on the dollar. So that's what I meant. That I wanted to be very specific in terms of their function is, and that's what anybody who's boosting stuff is to drive the price down for the wholesaler Double G in this case, so that he could take the profit and keep the price down so that consumers keep coming back. Blah blah. That's whatever. That's whatever that is. Just neither here nor there. But the big point being that this this enterprise of dock workers just down there wanting ships that's being stripped away bit by bit. So you got individuals that are driven by desperation to do desperate things, but you also have a system of things that are going on in the docks that are just not okay, but acceptable, but have just been accepted as this is what being on the docks is. I work, but I can also boost shit or take stuff when I need it, whether it's for my personal stuff or because Nick in this series is being pigeonholed into or being put into a very specific corner, I'm going to keep upping the risk. And Ziggy's right there and will never ever be like, nah, nah, chill out on what we're doing. So so you're seeing the mystique of the docks being stripped away, and then you're also seeing the mystique of Nick's principles being stripped away.
Okay.
Because he's always shitting on Ziggy. He's always shitting on black people, shitting on black people out there doing what they're trying to do, but yet you keep moving towards that avenue. You keep going down that road.
Right.
From the quote unquote hardworking, decent people. If that's the other side. If drug dealing's on one end, the other end is hardworking, decent people. So he's getting further and further away from that life.
No, without he's there at this point. Like this, this is the.
I mean, he was there at the beginning of the series. I mean, like the first conversation we see between Frank and Nick is about stealing shit, but now they're showing us it.
Yeah, I mean, but the difference is when he was doing it with Sabaka with his uncle.
Right.
He was not profiting. This is now.
Well,
this is his own. He's doing his own.
There is no difference. Frank is everybody's profiting. But
Nick wasn't.
But the difference, and his dad talks to Frank about this at the very end of the series. So I won't go into it in detail. But the point is, once you dip your toe in, there's no going back. You can't you can't do all these justifications. That shit doesn't work out. You're stealing. Period. Yeah. Now he's taking greater personal risk with it, absolutely, at this point in time. But he's always been a thief.
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah, no question about that.
And there is the difference. The difference wasn't that he stole for the honor of the Union. The difference was he was stealing on Sabaka's behalf and was taking little to no cut of it. Now, I agree with you there, but that's not a difference from now I'm stealing for myself. Stealing is stealing. Period.
Yeah, he was stealing from the beginning. You have Ziggy, Dolores, and Ringo.
Or wait, let me pause really quickly. Or let's take it to that deeper level. Once you make choices to become what's the opposite of amoral character? There's no going back on that. So once you make that choice as a character of righteous path versus non-righteous path, you can't try to walk that in between. And so Nick and Frank taking the greater responsibility because he's the uncle, he's the oldest, he's supposed to care about his nephew and not show him how to go down this non-righteous path. These are horrible things. I just can't think of the words right now. But that other path, but once he did show him that, there was no going back. And all Nick was going to do was escalate the personal wealth of himself as he's driven more and more towards quote-unquote desperation.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that Frank opened that door.
I just wanted to take it out. It's not about the stealing. That's not what it's about. It's about the path the characters are choosing to walk themselves down and the justifications they give themselves. because as we know, the stealing will morph into something else. So
Right.
it's not about stealing. It's about the choices these characters are making.
Yeah, Ziggy, Dolores, Ringo. Of course, Ringo is the gentleman who, the stevedore who threatened to leave Frank Sabaka's union to go to another one because of the lack of hours that he was getting. He gets his shot in the beer, and along with that shot in the beer comes a boatload of cash from Frank Sabaka that receives through the bartender Dolores. And as this is going on, Ziggy, who had a great day, watches, and he hears Dolores say, this is from Frank Sabaka, which annoy, based on his facial expression, annoys him and plays on his insecurity without question. Again, we mentioned earlier in the show, that looming shadow of Avon Barksdale over the world of Stringer Bell.
Wait, hold on, pause. No, I got it. Wait, I have to talk about that bar scene. Were you going past that bar scene?
No. I'm making a point. No, I'm making a point.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I was like, wait, what? What's happening?
No. I said no.
Okay.
I'm making a comparison. I said we talked earlier about the looming shadow of Avon Barksdale over Stringer Bell in the world, and we see it with this, the looming shadow of Frank Sabaka over Ziggy.
Yeah, always.
And it bothers Ziggy. And
Yeah.
clearly in this scene, it bothers Ziggy. Because you think about it, there's no reason for Ziggy to be upset considering the day he had. Like, you engineered a deal to make a boatload of money. But
pause, because like what you said there was really deep. And I think you need to dig into that a little bit more. You equated Avon to Sabaka and Stringer to Ziggy.
Right.
That's those some big time comparisons. You need to pull that apart a little bit more.
No, because I mean, we've been talking about with McNulty and Stringer and now with Ziggy in terms of insecurities, and how the insecurities of these characters drive decisions and drive their mindset. So I brought up Stringer, I brought up Ziggy in comparison to his father because, again, he had a great day. He engineered a deal that's going to make him and Nick Sabaka a lot of money. It was his idea, but yet that goes to the back door in his mind in that moment when he hears that his father has just gave this dude, his father has gave this dude the amount of money he's given them, and his father's name is ringing out. And even at the end of the scene, you see Dolores, the bartender, says, your dad's a good man, Ziggy. Which we both know that's not true, but I guess she was trying to make a point of,
from her perspective.
From her perspective, he has good intentions from her perspective.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that that we see that insecurity and what insecurity can do to a character.
Yes. No, I just want you to say it again because it's such a good point. And it's such a good comparison, and people won't automatically get there between those two, but between that combo. But it's 1,000% applicable and very, 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 very deep of what you're talking about. You're absolutely right. Especially the part where you said Avon and Stringer in terms of like the name that looms over Stringer and will always loom over Stringer is Barksdale.
Yes.
And the name that looms over Ziggy will always loom over Ziggy is Sabaka. Like it just like it's just that, and the insecurities drive them to doing the different things that do. Stringer, it looks one way. For Ziggy, it looks another way. So that was just a well-made point. So I just wanted that to be repeated. Then on top of that, there's a whole bunch of things going on in this bar at this point in time. The first thing is since we're making comparisons, then where else do we see a bar in this episode? Butchie's bar, right?
Butchie's, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So you got the juxtaposition of Butchie's bar where illicit activities are happening, right. And then you have the juxtaposition of Dolores's bar where illicit activities are happening. Yes. Like that money didn't come from hard earned, days work and going like and it's kind of in the exact same manner, right? Envelope of cash gets paid, so I love, like, that's what we're talking about when we're like everything. It seems like this. Something happens in a bar and we can pull so much out of it. That just makes this show so rich. So just that. And then the second thing is Ziggy's chilling. Not only does Sabaka's loom over him, but Ziggy's chilling. Dolores goes, "What's wrong with you?" He's like, "I had a good day. I made money today." She's no. Even before that, he's like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "You're acting normal."
Yes.
How fucked up is that to say to a person? Like, damn, can I live? I can't do anything. I can't just come here, sit down, enjoy your drink. Otherwise, I'm going to be called out. So if I'm going to be called out for something, I might as well be called out for what I'm known for, right? Like, what's the point of me trying to chill and be inconspicuous if I'm going to be called out? So anyways, I felt for Ziggy in that moment. And this is another actor. I have no clue what else he's been in, but he fucking killed this Ziggy role because everything I was able to get that comparison for Ziggy the Stringer, the whole thing, not because of any words anybody said, but it was all on Ziggy's face. He just looks up, looks down, looks look. Ziggy never says a word. It's all on his face. And we get all of that emotion from there. Everything that you get, I could not agree with you 100%. It's because of what the actor did in the writing and the structure and the directing the episode, directing of all of that, of course, happens. But it's just another instance. I'm just like, whoa, wow. Like this is some really, really good stuff. And all that came out of that scene in the bar. Brilliant.
Yeah, like, so with the bar,
I'll take my shots, but I will definitely point out when they are brilliant.
With the bartender, you go back to two bartenders, Butchie and Dolores. And we talked about justification of why you do what you do. They are completely comfortable with what they're doing. They're completely comfortable. It seems like they're completely comfortable. Like, this is like, it's kind of like, with both of them, even though they're different people, and we'll see what Butchie does. And Dolores doesn't have, it's not, her role won't be as near as big as Butchie's will be in the future. But this is kind of like normal for them. This shit is like normalized. When we talked about, even, I don't want to go, it's normalized. When we talked about going back to season 1, when Wallace wanted out. Like, that shit wasn't, he wanted out because and Wallace and D'Angelo, they wanted out because they were, that shit wasn't normal to them. And they wanted out. This shit is normal. These two bartenders, it's like, oh, look, business as usual. Keep it moving.
The argument that the show is making is that when institutions fail, people do desperate things. And it gets ugly from a human perspective, and then the police are left to clean it up, and society figure it out, blah, 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 all of that. Part of that is because normal institutions, i.e. banks, i.e. Congress, Senate, like in these places, and we know this if we just take the Frank Sabaka kind of juxtaposition, right? Like, the show is making an argument because the city wants to enrich itself, and the elite few on that boat at the very beginning want to enrich themselves. It's at the decay and detriment of everybody else. And so what becomes the poor man's bank? What becomes the poor man's what becomes the institution that people can rely on? Is the ones that are in their neighborhoods, right? And in both of these circumstances, circumstances, again, this is the brilliance of The Wire, the juxtaposition, black, white, doesn't matter. We're all being crushed by what is going on. And we're all being like yoked down, and there's only a very few people who are getting off of this. And so in both of those circumstances, Butchie is the de facto for, as we know, one Omar Little, but as we see negotiating terms with different people in there, and or loan shark, whatever, however you want to break it down, that's de facto there. And in their neighborhood, the bar is everything, honestly. Like that, the bar probably gets more equal play as the docks in this season, right. And up until right now, right? So there's a lot going on in that bar, but that bar is that de facto safe space for all types of activities to happen in the neighborhood, because that's their circle. That's all that is given to them, this little patch of land for particular group of people, whether economically or ethnically, put together to try to scratch out a living.
Yeah. No, great scene. Like you said, what's the guy's name is James Ransom.
Ziggy. His name is Ziggy.
Yep, it's Ziggy. He'll be always, Ziggy.
He'll always be Ziggy to me. I would definitely be like one of those people, like on the outside. I would do that. I would do that. For him, I would do that. I'm like, Ziggy!
What up, Ziggy? McNulty receives his papers from his wife. No surprise there. And again, it's setting up his, to your point, deconstructive behavior that we'll see.
Sad.
Yeah. It'll be a lot. Final scene, D'Angelo with the inmates. They realize that the package has been spiked. You have a number of inmates, carried out on a stretcher, who are out of it, have either, who have been poisoned. D'Angelo, of course, is trying to find out what's going on. They give him, the lowdown, bad package, hot shots, which was, of course, the title name of the episode. And we end the episode with the King State of King, Avon, chilling with a book, as if nothing was going on, just laying back in his cell and reading a book, and that's how the episode closes.
Yeah, he knows why all this is happening.
Yeah.
He don't have to be stressed about anything. He knows exactly what's going on.
Yeah,
and why it's going on. Yeah, I mean, I like if there was the way that end scene is framed and shot. If there was going to be, like, if somebody was holding on to a sliver of, like, maybe D'Angelo and Avon can, like, that was it. That was it. That's the complete severing of ties visually. We'll get words next episode, but visually, that was the severing of the ties between those two.
Yeah, I mean, D'Angelo has seen this movie before with Avon, doing things that self-serve, sacrificing lives. He, like you said, he was done with it at season one.
Well, here's the thing. Like, we say things like the King State of King, and I was thinking a lot about this. I was juxtaposing this scene in my head with the Walter White scene in Breaking Bad, where he has the crew go in and kill, like, everybody in 12 seconds, all that stuff. Anyways, we say the King stays the king, but the reason why D'Angelo's done with him is he looks at his boy who did nothing to Avon, who has done nothing to him. Right. And he's laid out on that cart about to die. Right? Like, so like, yeah, but no. like, at a certain point, viciousness is just viciousness, evil's evil, being heartless and cruel is just being heartless and cruel. As we know about D'Angelo's not that. He's just not that.
No.
He's not that. And again, that's what makes his story so tragic. I mean, there's an argument that D'Angelo's probably the most tragic figure in this whole entire series, and that's what makes him so tragic, and that's what makes him stand out, is that he wasn't like that. He wanted something else, and no matter what he wants, he's surrounded by this evil that is Avon. So let's pull that piece away. And so like yeah, there are moments of triumph in the drug game for Avon and Stringer, but what the director, what the creators, what the actors want you to connect to is the consequences of those actions. And so that's what D'Angelo's looking at. That's why, like, the first thing that you hear is like the voices and D'Angelo yelling out what's going on, and somebody yells back at him like what's going on, and then he starts to see the stretchers come out, and he sees his guy being pulled out of that thing. That's why it's a visual severing. Yeah. Because what Avon does is he exploits people for his own gain. Might be fine and cool for all those who are all in the game, but so many people, and as we are introduced to the Barksdale crew, that's one of the main points, is that innocents are now people who have nothing to do with the game are getting caught up in the cruelty and the viciousness and the death cycle. That's where you can't condone where things are going, and that D'Angelo's our avatar for that. Like, nah, Avon, that's not cool.
No. Yeah, we will see. We'll see where this how this moves forward. MVP and the Chardine Award, I had Avon as the MVP. I think, I think that the strategy that he said, I just think that the strategy that he took, the opportunity that he took out of this, in regards to using the Tillman, what Tillman did, how it started in terms of what it will end up morphing into, I thought was brilliant. He didn't have to tell, like, again, he did it without really giving up a lot of information as far as his entire plan, to not only D'Angelo, but also to Stringer as well. So it was, obviously it was dirty and grimy as hell, just dehumanizing these prisoners who, trying to serve whatever time they have left, and just they're basically sacrificial lambs. But I think that it was kind of important for the series to show him in this light of, all right, I can plan, I can strategize, I can make these moves as well. It's not just Stringer who's the guy who's the planner, who's a strategy guy that we've seen Stringer be in, like, throughout the first season. Avon and Stringer have kind of have that, that yin and yang as far, he'll go seek Stringer, he will seek advice from Stringer in certain, dealing with Omar or certain other things. This was him, this was him playing this out. And we'll see what this morphs into. So I had him as my MVP. Who was yours?
So I'm going to take a little bit of a different tack with the MVP, because there were so many powerful acting scenes in this episode. Like, I had a hard time choosing between, but I'm gonna do Bunk and Freeman for ethering Jimmy McNulty. That's what I'm gonna go with. Those are my MVPs. And I mean, like, the initial, they were brilliant in this episode.
Yeah.
So that's my MVP.
They were.
Like I said, I watched that scene 4 times. There's no way I was not gonna call that out. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. And I'm not even mad at what McNulty did in the scene at all. Like, I would put him right in there, but if I'm just going MVPs, because they 4-pieced him. they gave it to him. And the best way to give it to McNulty is to show him he's not the smartest person in the room. That's how you hurt him.
He had no retort to that. There's nothing he could he could have
No,
nothing.
because he was Johnny Come Lately.
Yeah. No, that was a brilliant scene. As far as the Chardine Award, I got I have co-characters for this. Initially, I had Nick Sabaka alone, but then as I started thinking about it more and we discussing this episode, I had to put Ziggy there. I had to put Nick and Ziggy and Nick. The scenes that they were in together were brilliant, but also their scenes where they both had moments where they projected just this internal, I'm not gonna say hate, but this internal desperation or this internal despair. Ziggy at the bar, Nick Sabaka at the docks when he's talking about when he's talking to Ziggy about being on his ass, or even Ziggy, or even Nick at the not the opening scene, but one of the first scenes when he's getting his hair cut from his girlfriend or from his his baby mama. And you see he sold that desperation to a T. He sold how desperate he was. And Ziggy, of course, again, the subtlety of his performance in that last scene was alone enough to get to garner this performance award. So Ziggy and Nick.
Yeah, it's Ziggy.
Yeah,
It's the bar scene. We've talked about it.
That bar scene was powerful.
It was everything.
That was
everything.
Acting
For me as a Ziggy fan, it was everything. Yeah, I just that like definitely the way to get me as a viewer to really appreciate the work is show me, don't tell me. I much prefer to be shown the scene than for somebody to go into a whole soliloquy about what's about to happen. And so, as we said, the actor, he crushed that scene. He said a million different things with no words and conveyed the exact emotion that needed to be conveyed in that scene. Yeah. I'll just be talking over points that we've already talked about. It was great.
It was a brilliant scene. And you think about this episode, you said coming in, you had a lot to say about this episode. A lot of people, I admittedly, when I watched this episode initially, I thought that even though there was so much to go on, I thought like, okay, it's moving. I thought it was slow moving, but when I went back and started doing prep work for the show, for this episode, and for this podcast, I was like, whoa, yeah, it was a lot of stuff that was going on, and that it's not about The Wire if you haven't learned, and you haven't learned already through the first season and a couple episodes that we've done this second season. Not about the traditional wow factors and wow scenes. They're not trying to do that, and it can be hard as a viewer when you have been programmed and used to television that
I want to piggyback until you're done. Keep going.
That gives you that sex scene, action scene, explosion, and that so you have to when you watch The Wire, you almost have to like retrain your minds in terms of expecting what you're going to see. And to your point, when you said this many times, it is a novel. Sometimes you got a good book. Sometimes you got to read it multiple times before you get stuff out of it. I mean, I'm sure not sometimes you have to read it multiple times. You get different points out of it, and that is the brilliance of this episode. Like on the surface, I thought the episode when I watched it, like this was kind of waiting for stuff to happen, but no, things were happening. It was just happening it was just happening, and happening. It was just brilliant storytelling. It was just that layered and it's just not about that wow factor. And that's even the experience that I am watching The Wire, you still have to remember that when you're watching the show.
Yep. So as soon as I was done watching it, just like just straight through, I knew we were going at least 2 hours on this episode. Like I knew it. And so here's why I say that. The reason why I love season 2 so much is because it was so risky. And it still is one of the most risky moves I've seen anybody make in the entertainment space, because it would have been so easy, and HBO just wanted to just continue on with the Avon Barksdale and drug story. It'd have been so easy to do that, and they didn't. Why didn't they do that? You got to ask yourself why. And the answer is because The Wire is a show that challenges the viewer to ask why. That's why this is such a multi-layered episode that we're talking about. And if we just hit everything on the surface, we could have been done with this in 15 minutes. Yep, this happened, that happened, done. But that's what a good book is. Yes, you do have to read a good book multiple times. You have to. A good one that is not just telling you what happened, but wants you to examine the human experience. And that's what The Wire is challenging us to do. And that's why season 2 is like in degree of difficulty, 1,000,000. Degree of difficulty, 1,000,000. You're going to do what? Go to some dock workers and change half the cast and bring in all these new characters and redo the exact pace that you did for season 1. So we're going to have to start out slow again as you break. Like, what? Like, why would anybody make it that difficult? Because they had a story to tell, and they had an overarching story to tell, and they wanted to challenge us. Season 2 is the most challenging season because it's not obvious. They really made us think. Like, the next 3 seasons, as great as they are, and we are coming up on pure unadulterated greatness. Do not get me wrong. The reason I hold this season high is because of the degree of difficulty in which they did. They did not have to go this route. They chose to go this route. And they chose to go this route for very specific reasons that we'll outline on that. But what I respect most about it is that they not only chose to go this route, but then they chose to challenge us. And that's why a lot of people opted out of that, because they didn't want to be challenged. Yeah, I said it. They didn't want to be challenged. And this season, you cannot just watch this season as like, I'm eating some popcorn and just going to sit back and watch the Sparks Fly. Nope, not even close. You got to dig to get the enjoyment out of this season. And if that's not your cup of tea, that's not your cup of tea. But we're the ones talking about The Wire. So that is our cup of tea. Yeah. And I love this episode.
Yeah, no, this is a great episode. I like even going through this conversation, going through these scenes, and just some of the stuff that you take from the, with Stringer, and identifying these new characteristics that we weren't able to see in past years, and what have you. It's this is what you take out of these subtle scenes, or these scenes that you might think that you not skip over, but that you might not think, okay, I can kind of relax on that. Like, no, this scene, your antennas have to be up from the opening epigraph, or from the opening scene to the final scene. It's relentless from that standpoint. You think a scene is for comedy, like, nope, there's some underlining subtext to what's going on. So it will pick up, though. Just like season 1, the first couple of episodes, the pace definitely will pick up. You'll start to see some payoffs, but again, you also are going to see your fair share of setup and things that are going to project over the course of the final 3 seasons as well. So keep that in mind. Also.
Yeah, I mean, I think my final thought off of what you were saying was, you don't get you don't get to this level of artistry without knowing how to tell a story. So trust and faith, they're going to tell the damn story in the most interesting way possible. But then that next level of enjoy, like truly getting the most out of The Wire, is to start asking yourself, why are the characters acting the way they are? Sometimes, I mean, you can do that with any television show, right? Like I was having a conversation with a friend, and she was like, I want to go back and watch what's that, Entourage. I was like, you can, but you're not going to get anything out of that. That show was a very time specific, superficial show. That's what it was. And they went back and watched it. It's like, yeah, I couldn't get. I was like, I told you, because you can apply that strategy to a whole bunch of shows, right? Like, why is that character doing what? And in most shows, you will come out disappointed because there is no answer.
No.
Why is that character doing? Because the writer just said they need to do that. but the truly great shows, and this is one of the ones that are truly great, think about everything about that character. Give them a before story from birth all the way through death, right? Even though they're only going to show 5 years, right? But they know you can ask them anything about that character. Why did that character do what they did? And they can give you a whole dialogue going back to birth of what their mom did, everything. The writers, the creators have that in their mind. So they understand the motivations of their characters so they can be more subtle with it. Those shows that are very transparent and talky and telly and this is what it is because they haven't thought through, in my humble opinion, they haven't thought through the depth of the character's motivations. So they can't show any subtlety because they don't have any subtlety to show. So it's another thing that just makes this show great. But when you were talking, that just really made me think of like the reasons why The Wire is spectacular.
Yeah, no question. I think that is a perfect way to close out the show, to close out the podcast. As always, thanks to Robert Sapp for joining the show. I will
appreciate you.
Stay safe out there.
Be safe, be healthy.
All right. Later. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast, The Wire Remix. As always, this show will be on my YouTube channel probably around midnight. I'll get it up around probably close to midnight, maybe even before that, as well as anywhere you can find any your podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Blog Talk Radio, etc. I will see you next time. Stay safe. I'm out.